Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, during this period of uncertainty, where there is, let's face it, a certain fear around technology in some circles out there, I want to try and add some much needed positivity to the current narrative, and I think we all need that right now. And for those of you that have not seen it, I recently encountered a TED Talk by Yuval Ben-Itzhak, Chief Executive Officer for Socialbakers. And his TED Talk was about how artificial intelligence can unleash the potential in each of us, and it was so refreshing to hear a positive take on this. And as you all know, I am a fan of TED Talks. And a tenuous link into a shameless plug, my first book, Great TED Talks Innovation, is available at all good bookstores at the moment, because after watching hundreds and hundreds of TED Talks, I went out there and tried to put 100 of them together and package them in a format that would allow anyone to pick up and learn from those TED Talks and allow them to innovate and approach innovation without being intimidated. But this podcast is not about me plugging my own book. What's that all about? Sorry for digressing. When I watched that TED Talk with Yuval there, it led me to Socialbakers. And Socialbakers is a trusted social media marketing partner to thousands of enterprise brands and small to medium-sized businesses, but including over 100 companies on the list of Fortune Global 500. And essentially, they're leveraging the largest social media data set in the industry and using machine learning and helping brands engage and grow their customer base through content personalization based on actionable AI-powered audience insights. And I know whenever I say the word AI, it does feel like a bit of a buzzword. And I think much of that is to do with a lot of businesses out there exaggerating their capabilities. And sometimes, let's face it, they're saying AI without actually being AI. But today's episode is nothing like that. We've got a lot to go at, a lot to explore. So if you would like cheering up today and having a more positive narrative around the world, around the future, and the role that artificial intelligence will play there, come and join me in Prague, where Yuval is waiting to speak with us now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Yuval Ben-Itzhak, and I'm the CEO of Socialbakers for the last 3 years. We headquarter in Prague, the Czech Republic, but originally I'm from Israel. And my background is from the tech side of the world, spending over 20 years in cybersecurity, in marketing tech and ad tech, and now I'm very pleased to lead the Socialbaker business for the last 3 years.
And I do love the name Socialbakers. It's got a real ring to it. But for anyone listening and hearing about Socialbakers for the very first time, can you just set the scene and tell me a little bit about the kind of problems that you're solving for your customers and the value that you're bringing to them?
Absolutely. Socialbaker, we are a SaaS marketing tech company. We provide businesses with a unified marketing platform to engage with their audiences across social media channels. As more and more of the consumers are leveraging social channels, messaging platforms to engage with their brands needs to know how to operate, to understand their audience, how to create the content, how to activate it, measure it, and of course to care and respond to these audiences. So our platform provides them all, it's kind of an all-in-one SaaS platform to enable brands to operate across those digital channels.
And I've got to ask, like I said, I love the name, but what's the story behind the company and that name?
Yeah, I'm getting this question a lot. What it has to do with the bakers. So Socialbakers started about 11 years ago with a different name. Actually, at the beginning, where Facebook was almost like 50 million users. Those of you who remember the apps over social media. So we started as a company that developed those apps for brands so they can engage with their users. And on top of these apps, we provided an analytics system just to show and count level of engagement. what we realized that the brands are actually more interested in the measurement and analysis rather than the apps themselves. So we transitioned into a platform for analytics. That's where we started. The name also had like 3 versions. Like with every young startup, you start somewhere, you end a little bit in a different place. So we had this journey as well. Social is obvious. We're running over social media, and Bakers just came as, there was no better domain to find. So that's why we ended with that. Nothing specific.
And one of the reasons that I was excited to invite you on the podcast today was after I learned that through analysis of your data and through conversations with your customers, you've seen significant changes in both user and brand behavior on social media. So can you expand on some of your findings there?
Yeah, we are living now in a very special time with the COVID-19 really changing people behaviors, and also that impacts how brands are operating. With all the lockdowns and people staying at home, they now have more time to engage with content over digital channels. They're now consuming more content and have more time to read and respond to content, something that completely changed the amount of supply in the market of people who wants to read content. On the other hand, we're seeing the brands and the business climate that is out there are, I would say, better controlling their spend and advertisements, and some of them even reduce their budget until there'll be some clarity in their business environment. And that's reduced the demand in the market. So when the demand is low and the supply is high, the prices are going down. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now on the social media channels in all the areas where the virus started to hit. The positive side is in areas where the virus kind of already passed or the market's starting to recover, like in East Asia, we're starting to see the supply and demand going back to the same levels that they used to be before. So if we want to indicate a some more optimistic way, although in some region in the world it looks like it's the end of the world happening now, but no, it's going to pass. And in region that's recovering, we're also seeing people are more busy, so the supply is going down, and the brands are bringing back the spend and the advertisement. And the price of cost per click and the click-through rates of content are going back to the norm. And that's the more optimistic view of the world right now.
And we will have a lot of business leaders feeling a little bit overwhelmed and the immediate future quite daunting at the moment. So that's very welcome news. But I'm curious, from the conversations you're having with your clients, what kind of challenges are they facing at the moment, and how are you helping them in this time of uncertainty right now?
Yeah, the first questions we receive is what's happening around. Tell us what is happening to our brand, what is happening to our competitors, what is happening in our territory. And one of the first requests is, can you visualize for us how the world looks like today? So this is where they will use some dashboard and all those measurements out there just to realize if that's where things are going. The second thing they're asking, so what should we do? Now it's a crisis time. Should we stop communicating because everyone is kind of in a panic mode? The topic now is about the virus and all the, I would say, sad news we're hearing on from the news channels. Or should we continue to promote content? Our guidance to brands during crisis times, you cannot afford not to communicate. Keep communicating. Put it in context, put it in the right or relevant content to your audience, but you cannot go silent because you will disappear. The other question we're starting to get, and this is more recently, once the brands start to realize, okay, it's going to be a different world, and people behaviors is changing if they like it or don't like it. What do we need to do? And for that, I think for many years, brands were struggling to do the digital transformation. I think now with COVID-19, probably it's going to be the main driver to complete that transition and really become a truly digital across all the operation of the business. And I think that's those brands who will realize and embrace that, and those who manage to achieve that will be the one who will survive, will be the one that will see new opportunities in the market, will be the one that will take more market share. And that's the recommendation we have for them. We just released our study, and it's available on our blog. It's a COVID-19 impact on social media, where we included a lot of the charts, a lot of the data points. It's available on our website for download, and I welcome all the listeners to go there, and you can see the exact number, the exact trend, what is happening, and what you should do in the current market environment.
And we'll get the URL for that at the end of this podcast. But I'm curious, what are the key takeaways from that study?
So first, to realize that as people were kind of forced to work from home, they have more time to engage with content. So keep communicating, keep creating content, but make it relevant for your audience. Analyze the audience, understand the topic they are more interested these days. There are for certain vertical, it's a tough time, like for hospitality and airlines, but for other vertical, actually, it's a great opportunity. E-commerce, delivery, those kind of vertical actually can benefit from the time that advertising cost is pretty cheap. So with smaller budgets, they can get even more results for their business and bring audience. The more the brand is digital, the more they can leverage the current opportunity in the market. And we added all the charts to indicate and really demonstrate on, region by region around the world how things are evolving. And I think the most promising part, we included the charts from Asia, where we're seeing the market is rebounding and business is coming back to life, and it's like amazing to see it on a chart. So it's all available on our research on the blog.
And I'm curious, when we get on the other side of this global pandemic, do you think that the business world is going to look very different to what it was before?
I'm confident the business will look very different. I think businesses need to realize that people will consume goods and consume content and services in a different way. They were forced to a new reality these days. Probably they will be more cautious on all the sharing economy, where you can sit in the same desk that 5 people were sitting there before you, or renting those electric bikes that a lot of people were touching that. I expect some different behaviors from consumers around this kind of services that consider to be the next big thing and consider to be the most interesting part. People definitely in the short term will be more careful around that. I think for the brands, it means to really understand how they address these new needs, how to respond to the new behaviors of users, and how to do that at scale, and how to do that across multiple channels. It's not the question of how can I continue and recover from the things I used to do in the past. It's a question is how fast and how smart I can adjust to this new reality, because we all want to be on the other side of this crisis, coming out strong and actually take advantage and gain more market share, as other brands that do not realize that or very slow to adjust, we're probably going to lose market share.
And on the other side of this, how are you guys preparing for life after COVID-19?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. With Socialbakers, 100% digital company. A lot of our workforce is already working from home even before the virus. We're using a lot of cloud services, Zoom, like now everyone knowing about that, but also Slack and many other services. So other than the unpleasant situation and not seeing your colleagues in the office, the business continued to operate, and actually I'm seeing an even higher productivity with the team than when I've seen it when everyone is in the office. So we were questioning, should we continue the rent in the office or not? But from a business point of view, we are focusing on our velocity and the strengths of the business and prepared for the increase in demand for a platform like ours, where brands will need to communicate more with the audiences across the digital channels. And we are accelerating our delivering the product to the time where this demand is going to appear in the market.
And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, we are in this period of uncertainty at the moment. And outside of that, there's a lot of people out there that fear technology and how it could remove their positions, etc. But I want to try and add some much needed positivity to that current narrative. So for anyone that hasn't seen it, could you tell the listeners a little bit more about your TED Talk and how you believe artificial intelligence will actually unleash the potential in each of us rather than actually replace us?
Yeah, it's a topic that everyone is asking. What is that artificial intelligence? Is it a risk to my job? There's a lot of articles and videos around that trying to threaten that the robots are going to take over our day-to-day work. I'm looking at it in a very different perspective. Actually, I think like with every industrial revolution, artificial intelligence is just one of them. And actually, as an economy, we will see the benefit and productivity going to increase. Artificial intelligence, although the word looks very bombastic, is artificial intelligence. How come that's, if it's going to be smarter than humans? But all the tests and all the measures demonstrated that although the name has a lot of promise, the reality is pretty similar to the brain of a rat or something like that. So they're still going to take a long time until this type of technology will replace a human. However, it can help in a lot of our day-to-day activity, definitely those small repeated tasks, which even right now, when a lot of the healthcare industry is struggling a lot with the huge inbound of people coming in, asking for tests or having many questions, instead of putting more and more agent and trying to respond to that, there's a lot of artificial intelligence technology in use to help in the small repeated task to either fill a form or respond to questions. And artificial intelligence today help us to save the time and take out from our daily routine those small repeated tasks. And the studies show that we can save almost 30% of our work by handing it over to artificial intelligence. And with the 30% that we're going to gain, we can invest in things that are a bit more complicated, that requires the real human intelligence and really drive through new opportunities. So my TED Talk was all about that and providing the examples and the numbers to demonstrate that we should embrace artificial intelligence. We should bring it in. We should take all those annoying tasks that we don't like to do, repeat themselves every day. Let the tech automate that so we can gain the productivity, we can improve our day-to-day experience and even well-being and become more productive. And I think overall, it will be a great contribution to our economy and will drive more exactly as the previous industrial revolutions, like the robots and machines in the factories, contribute a lot to the global economy.
And as we look towards the future, what's next for you and indeed Socialbakers? I appreciate it's probably not too much you can share, but is there anything you can leave us with today?
Sure. So our vision is to enable marketers achieve more across digital channels. And the more the brands will embrace digital channels, and now with this COVID-19, we are quite confident more and more of them will have to do that. They will need platforms to help them to operate on top of these channels and do that in scale and multiple region and multiple network. And we're seeing the future exactly as we envision it, and we build the business for this future. And as sad we are with the current crisis situation, but we know the other side of the bridge, it's going to land exactly how we wanted the world to be. So we are very optimistic and preparing ourselves and our operation for this new reality.
And for anyone listening that would like to find out more information on the great work that you're doing, and also download that guide, the COVID-19 guide that we were talking about a few moments ago, can you just point everyone in the direction of where to find them?
Yeah, you can go to our website, socialbaker.com. Under the blog, you can see the recent blog is dealing with this topic, and we have a link there to download our report. I invite all the listeners to read more about it, see the chart. I think it's pretty amazing how the world is evolving, and we have the opportunity to see it as it moves.
Fantastic. Well, I'll add all those links to the blog post that will accompany this podcast episode. And it was just great to hear a bit of positivity in our conversation today. And like you said, one of the best messages you can deliver to brands out there is keep communicating, keep creating great content that's relevant to your audience. So many big takeaways, but a big thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate inviting me to your podcast.
Advertising has been hit hard over the last few weeks, and the current situation marketers are facing as a result of COVID-19 and the global pandemic is something that we need to talk about. But through analysis of their data at Socialbakers and through conversations with their customers, they have seen significant changes in both user and brand behaviour just by monitoring social media. So I will post a link to the blog post on that very topic that we discussed today over on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk/socialbakers, along with the TED Talk that we talked about right at the beginning. And maybe, just maybe, we can restore the balance in the universe by adding some much needed positivity out there. But as always, let me know what you think. I've talked about my opinions today. The guest has shared theirs. Now I turn the microphone over to you. Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Tweet me, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever you're on, whatever platform you like to use. Just look for me at Neil C. Hughes. So I'll be back tomorrow with another guest lined up and ready to go. But more than anything, just a genuine, heartfelt thank you from me to you for taking the time to tune in to this daily tech podcast. I know it's a big commitment. It's not lost on me. And without you guys, this show is nothing. So a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.